So.
First of all, thanks very much for speaking today. A couple of questions kind of down in the weeds. The first question is, how does the money go in? Are these grants? Are these equity investments? And then second question is, are there any examples that you have of companies that but for the third frontier would not be here today or would not have done a project that they've done? And then the follow-on is to Eric's earlier point about the investments here in Ohio. Are there any triggers, or let's say the investment is made by Third Frontier and then 5 years from now they pick up and move to Minneapolis? Is there any way to get that money back if we're not going to get it in tax revenues?
Well, I'll try the bookends and then let Baiju and Rebecca talk about the companies that are seeing this success. I'm sorry, the first part was
grants versus.
Grant, right? Thank you. Let's see, it's
I lost it too.
We're working so hard on the campaign that we're losing track already. These are grants. The state really doesn't have a means of making equity investments, and nor do we think we should. But because, as we've pointed out several times, they are matched by private investment, we're confident that they're being made in a form that's going to return profit and jobs. And of course, we do invest in Northeast Ohio. Many people are familiar with Jumpstart and with similar funds that we invest into funds that then in turn make equity investments, and those are, to use the technical, those are evergreen funds, right? That return the investment back so they can continue to be invested in new companies. So they are largely grants, and I will tell you that we are absolutely rigorous about making sure that these investments are in Ohio. Of course, most companies these days, it's not unusual to have ownership of a company that is global, and companies that have multiple facilities. I mentioned Rolls-Royce, GE. I mean, obviously these are global companies, but we make sure that the particular investments are here in Ohio. And yes, those are the grants in effect are contracts that we will enforce to make sure those investments benefit the people of Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of your but-for example, the best examples of those are the companies that move into Ohio or into Northeast Ohio more specifically because of a Third Frontier award, or at least in part because of a Third Frontier award. So there was a company that moved into Fairfax, surprisingly, called Proxy Biomedical. It was a firm that's based out of Ireland and had an opportunity to look at locations in the United States. It was choosing between Boston and Cleveland. And because they received part of a Third Frontier award as well as additional state incentives and private investment, they chose to locate their operations here as opposed to Boston.
Another good example, the Third Frontier is a large fund, and then we allocate the funds in different ways. So there's small grants that go to just companies to commercialize a product or an idea that came out of one of our universities or research centers, larger grants that allow for research that is in an area that we have a high degree of confidence is going to lead to commercialization, investments in entrepreneurship, the Entrepreneurship Signature Program, which of course in Northeast Ohio, Jumpstart is the lead partner. But we also have a program we call RDCAP, Research and Development something. Center Attraction. Thank you. I knew attraction was in there somewhere. And so, for example, we have a number of times put up funds when we know that there's a major commercial or research endeavor that is being considered by either a government agency or a federal government agency or a company, and we can help influence them to come to Ohio. And we just had a huge success. I mentioned GE, which of course is a major employer in Ohio, but is one of the largest industrial companies in the world and has plants all over the world. And they had a new line of aerospace research leading to a new product, a line or refinement of their aerospace engines, a $50 million investment that GE was prepared to make. They were considering which facility in the world, in their network, to make that investment. One of the plants that was vying within the I mean, think about this. These plants vie within their own companies, right? They compete internally within these global companies for assignments. Was in Vandalia near Dayton. And in partnership with the University of Dayton, the GE Vandalia plant competed within GE. The Third Frontier offered a $7.6 million challenge grant effectively to GE. And we were successful just 2 weeks ago. This $50 million GE new product line and research investment is going to come to near Dayton, Ohio, with a major research partnership with the University of Dayton, and create obviously a significant number of new jobs. I don't know the number off the top of my head. And that was a grant that we would only have made if they agreed to come to Ohio.
Hi, this is Eric Wellman with WCPN. As I'm sure that you on stage know, but I'll say this for the benefit of the audience, this will be the third frontier proposal that's come to the ballot. First time was in 2003, and it failed. The second time it passed in 2005 when it was attached to, I believe, an infrastructure proposal. Mm-hmm. If it passes this time, it would be the first time it passed on its own, fully on its own merits. Despite the bipartisan support and the newspaper editorials and the fact that there's no organized opposition, how concerned are you that it won't pass?
I'm going to be concerned until they count every last vote. Again, this is one thing. I have forgotten a lot of what I know about politics. It's a lot of it I've tried to forget. But actually, the stuff I really want to forget, I can't. It's the other stuff that but the part that I've not forgotten is you never take anything for granted. Obviously, we believe that this time we have a track record. You spoke of the earlier efforts in 2002 and 2005, or 2003 and 2005, and of course that was a brand new initiative that had no track record of success with the voters. We were simply trying to sell the voters on a new idea, and it took twice. And you're quite right. The second time we also partnered up with some critical infrastructure investments. I think we feel very strongly that we have a track record of success, as we've discussed, jobs created, businesses created, communities revitalized, that we can speak to the voters directly about this issue and ask them to invest in these types of programs. But of course, we don't take anything for granted. And as I said earlier to the previous question, really the opposition is not antagonism, as we've heard, and it's not apathy. It's just simply knowledge. It's linking the successes that people are seeing in Ohio to issue one, making sure they understand that this is the vehicle for continuing the successful program. And of course, that's a communications challenge, and we're working very hard on that. And we thank you for being here to help us with that communication challenge.
Cleveland, we've been listening to a special program in Ohio's Third Frontier. It will be issue 1 on the ballot May 4th. Thank you, panel. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This program is now adjourned.